I have my coffee. I hope you have yours. So, I'm going to be talking about my trip to Oregon, Portland, that I did a few weeks ago to help my dad with a repatriation ceremony. This is the program from that trip. It was an all day venture, and my dad led the circle. My dad is Bob Sam. He does a lot of repatriation work for our Tlingit tribe based out of Southeast Alaska. I've talked about him a lot on this channel, and there will be a lot more coming from me about him in the near future as well as it pertains to the Lost Alaskans Project. But my dad has also consulted on many repatriation projects around the investigations into the Indian boarding schools. He works with the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition, and he's just all around someone I admire very much, and folks should look him up if you are just now hearing about him. So about 6 months ago, maybe even 8 months ago now, my dad reached out to me and asked me if I had heard about the Lost Alaskans Project, and I had not. And he introduced me to some research that has been getting compiled by a group of volunteers over the last several years. It's been a labor of love by some very passionate, very amazing people for years now, and the work is monumental. There is so much. The records are overwhelming of what took place at Morningside Mental Hospital in Portland, Oregon. And the state has a long history with mental institutions and abuse taking place at these facilities, but Morningside had a contract with the Department of Interior, and prior to statehood, there were no services available in the territory of Alaska to handle individuals who experienced mental illness. And at the time, mental illness was considered and handled as a crime. Between 1904 and the 1960s, an estimated 3,500 people were taken from their homes to Morningside Mental Hospital. And in a lot of ways, these facilities ended up functioning in a very similar way as to the Indian boarding schools, stripping these people of their culture and identity and not returning them home. Now we have descendants trying to find out what happened to their families, going through records that have been neglected for decades. There are many unmarked graves. On my visit to Oregon, I visited 2 grave sites. And I have previous videos where I have shared the footage where the audio is good enough to share. I was fighting a lot of wind that day, and unfortunately a lot of my audio cuts out. The first grave site was a publicly managed grave site where everyone had markers, sometimes only with a number, but at least they were marked, and the graveyard was maintained. The second grave site, however, was heavy, and I was nauseous the whole time. Eric brought us down to a ravine where he said, based on the maps of what he was able to procure via records, that at least 200 patients from Morningside had been dumped, effectively. 200 at least unmarked graves, and the graveyard had allowed the space to become overgrown. They had allowed for poison oak and blackberries to just fill in, and if you didn't know to look there, you wouldn't know how many were there. One of the descendants of the patients who was buried at Section 8, the name of that site, was with us at the ceremony. I met her, I held ceremony with her, I sang songs with her, and her grandfather was somewhere in that site. My father has done a lot of work recovering old graveyards, and some of his work included clearing graveyards that had been neglected, and he has seen it before, the difference in treatment of grave sites. So I do want to transition here a little bit and talk about something that I have seen happening in my comment sections of my videos that I have shared from the trip. They are reaching other descendants and they are sharing the stories that their families told them in the comment sections. I am trying to get them in contact with the Lost Alaskans Project researchers, but this is why it is so important to please share videos like the ones that I have been sharing about the Lost Alaskans Project, about repatriation, because we are reaching the people who need to hear about this the most. It may not be you today, but it might be the next person who sees it after you. And that is very much being the case right now with these videos. And I am going to share a few of the comments here that I have permission to share so folks can read the stories from the descendants. It is honestly a kind of haunting. I don't really have words for hearing these stories and how they overlap with the experiences that I have been reading from the research of this project. It genuinely warps my mind, and it's why I have to do this work in very short sprints. So I'm going to finish off this video by talking about a couple of things, just to end it on a good note. So I experienced a lot of very good healing, being in community with members of my tribe, members of my own clan. I am Dachloedi, Eagle Killer Whale clan of my Tlingit tribe, and I was able to reconnect. And I was also gifted by one of the other aunties that I connected with a bunch of good medicine from home. As well as beautiful gifts from family, just being welcomed home in a way I have not felt in a very, very long time. And it was very, very needed for me after I have spent many months feeling very alone in the research of all of this. Not only do I spend a lot of time working my way through these resources on the Lost Alaskans Project, I also spend a lot of time advocating for the Truth and Healing Commission here in the United States, which is legislation that is aimed at investigating the Indian boarding schools here in the US, something that absolutely needs to happen. And something wonderful happened on that note. I made a video the other day explaining the legislation, where it is right now, and I pulled from the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition, their website, because they have everything laid out beautifully, and my dad has done work for them. That evening, I was asked to attend an event that my mom did the decor for locally, and the chief executive officer of NABS was the opening speaker for the event that I just happened to go to. Deborah Parker and I happened to go way back, actually. We were in a movie together called Shadow of the Salmon, and her daughter gifted me with a cedar hat. One moment. This hat, which I brought with me on my Oregon trip, and I have a whole story around this hat that I posted over on Threads, and it went kind of viral, and I guess I'll share that here if you want to read it. It's sweet. But anyways, Deborah Parker's daughter is who gifted me that hat, and running into Deborah Parker that evening was a kind of serendipitous moment that I still haven't fully processed. Anyways, life is strange in really cool ways right now. I'm hoping that this video makes sense. I don't know how to finish off this video, but I think I am gonna leave this here because I have to go do work stuff now. But if you're just now joining this, hi, my name is Birdie Sam. I am Tlingit, indigenous. My family's out of Southeast Alaska, but I live in Washington State now, and I use they, them pronouns, and I think if I were to summarize myself in as short a phrase as possible, I'm a bit of an anomaly. That being said, I am going to go have some more coffee and make more videos. I'll see you later. Bye.